Okay, hi everyone, and welcome back again to another video of the Poker Basics series. As I said, I wasn't sure to make a series of these Poker Basics videos, but today, again, I had another idea to show you some stuff, and then I said, okay, let's make a video for this one as well. So we're gonna talk about for some time, but hopefully it's not like the previous video, more than 1 hour. It's just a short video, hopefully. So I've changed the color to black. Now we are having a black color. And just as a recap, we talked about the general gameplay. Maybe I will not spend too much time on this one. So the general gameplay was like we had a dealer button, small blind, big blind, then the game goes clockwise. Dealer button also shifts to the left after each hand which is getting played. And we can have cash games and games with chips or sort of tournaments, you may say. And then we said the aim is to have the best 5-card combinations, and the combinations where we had this crazy table here is starting from high card and up until to royal flush. And then we said the probability of having quads, straight flush, and royal flush are really low, and mostly the games are played in the range of high card up until full house. Even full house is not happening quite often. And we talked about actions on pre-flop, and we gave also some terminology like shoving, small blind, big blind, and dealer, and I don't know, probably some other stuff as well, which I don't remember. We have also pot odds, equity. We talked about these as well. How do we calculate? We talked about two very important percentages which you have to bear in mind. It should be like, when you are breathing, you don't think about your breathing. So these two percentages should be completely written in your mind, so that immediately once you hear it, you understand that these percentages are going to be applied. Then for calculation of equity, we gave this 4-2 rule, which number of outs multiplied by 2 is in the case that you are allowed only to see one more card, and multiplied by 4 if you're allowed to see 2 more cards. We talked about outs as well, flush draws, straight draws, gut shots, and so on. And we talked a little bit also about the position, tight play, loose play, and using the factor of position into your gameplay. This was another one. And we also talked about the tilting effect, the lock effect, all sorts of information and signals that you are basically sending to your opponents. And yeah, we gave also some general tips and so on. I don't want to talk about things we discussed in the previous session, but today, okay, let me again state it here that we talk about pot size bet. We knew that bear in mind that this is only in heads up. So pot size bet, we said this is always 2-1, and this is 33%. And then we said 50% of pot size will be always 3-1, and this is like 25%. These two, we said you have to bear in mind these two. But and anything in between, so in between 50% and 100% with respect to the pot size, will be changing between 25% to 33%. And the range is not also a big range. So you can also estimate it like 60% or 70% of the pot size will be like, 27% or 28%. But today we want to talk about over pot size, because this might also happen in cases when people are shoving in, we are saying all in, or when people are just betting more than the pot size. So we're going to discuss this one also. So we go 2 times pot size, And the scenario of 3 times pot size, we're gonna take a look at it as well. 4 times pot size, I just make these 5 times pot size, something like that. Okay, if we make it 2 times, we go with a simple example. So suppose 10 is the pot size, the guy bets 20, your reward will be 30 plus of these 2, and then your risk will be 20 to call. So this will be 3 to 2, and basically this is 2 over 5, or 40%. So now, do you see the difference between full pot size and twice as the pot size? This ratio is changing from 33% to 40%, which has 7% of difference. Right? Now let's go to the next scenario. We're gonna draw a really nice conclusion out of this. So this is 10. Now the guy bets 30, and you are sitting here. Your reward will be 40, and your call will be 30. This will be 4 to 3, or 3 over 7. And 3 over 7, I need to calculate it just to be exact. 3 divided by 7 will be almost 43%. Now see the difference between here and here. So there's only a 3% difference between the two. Now we go to 4 times pot size. It will be 10 to 40. The amount you need to call is 40, and your reward will be 50, and this will be 5 to 4, and this will be 4 over 9, which if you calculate it, it will be 44.4%, and the difference is only 1.4%, which is getting decreased as we go along. With 5, it will be 10 to 50, and here 60 will be your reward and 50 to call, or you may call it as 6 to 5. You get the idea, I guess. 5 over 11, 5 divided by 11 is 45.5%, and this is also something in that range. So now you understand that you are basically reaching some plateau, you may call it, with 45% as you go up until 5 times the pot size. And believe me, this is 5 times the pot size is really huge already, right? So you're reaching 45% in terms of pot equity. Now we want to go to an extreme example. The extreme example is, suppose that you have 10 here, and then the guy bets 100,000, and you want to say, what should I do? So the amount that you, so this will be 100,010, and this is your reward, and your risk will be 100,000, right? So now if you take the ratio between the two, it is almost 1 to 1, because 10, the pot size, is so low compared to the amount of chips that he is putting, that this ratio goes 1 to 1, or this is 1 over 2, or 0.5, or 50%. See, so at the most extreme cases, when, for example, suppose that you are starting with a stack of 150,000, and the blinds are, the small blind is 100 and the big blind is 200. So in such a pot, when they start small blind, big blind, then normally it will be, I don't know, 300, and if some people call, it will be like 500 or something like that. And 150,000 in a pot where you have basically 500 in the middle, then this is a good scenario of this example. Suppose that in the beginning of the table, just in the beginning, you say small blind, big blind, then some people call, and then one guy shoves in immediately. In the first hand, he says all in. So then you know that the pot odds are just 50%. So, but maybe this wasn't a good example because this is only valid for the heads up. And for the heads up, this ratio also if more people are playing, this ratio is getting lower and lower. We discussed about this fact, I think, in the previous session. We already discussed it, that the more players which are playing, here we discussed it. If the more players are playing, it will be good also for the pot odds. Okay, anyways, but you get the idea, right? In heads up, if immediately they shove in when the blinds are very small. Whoops, I just ruined it. Okay, so let me delete this one. But anyways, you get the idea, right? So at worst case, when the difference between the bet that the guy is basically putting, or when he shoves all in, and the pot size is really not that much huge, then you know that the odds are 50%, right? Okay. And at worst case, you know that if they go 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, something like that, it will plateau itself into something around 45%. So you know that the range of pot size will basically changing in a heads-up match. It will be changing between maybe 25%, starting from half pot size, 25% up to 50%. Okay. So this was one thing which I wanted to talk about. And now maybe I was planning today, I was basically having some plans. We can talk about a hands breakdown to see some interesting concepts. But before going to this example of hand breakdown, let me also talk about something which is some other terminology, maybe. Yeah, some other terminology. This I've searched it already, and we can maybe talk about it here. So, I mean, you can basically search in Google like preflop ranges, and the first website which I have found, I just opened it up because we're going to talk about this chart. This chart is something, it has some, let's say, nice pieces of information attached to it, which with some new terminology. We will learn also some new terminology. So this is an example of 8 max, or which means basically 8 people are around a table. So 8-player game. And these are the name of basically each person sitting there. So we already know what is button, number 1. Sorry, I cannot draw something to basically show you where I'm talking about. But you can see number 1 is button or the dealer. Number 2 is small blind. We already know that. Big blind, we already know that. Under the gun, I think we haven't talked about this one. Under the gun is, let me go here. So there were 8 people, right? So let me just write everything down to here. So here we have, suppose we have dealer here. Then to the left, it will be small blind, big blind, and this will be UTG. UTG is under the gun. So this guy will be UTG plus 1. So this is under the gun plus 1. This is the terminology here. And then we have low jack, hijack, and cutoff. So this is low jack, this is hijack, this is cutoff, and this is the button or the dealer, right? So these are the positions in an 8-game player. So low jack, hijack, and cutoff. And now these are the list. So this table, what it shows is there are maybe different versions of it. Different versions of it. But you see it's color coded. And we have like, if you see the bottom part of this table, there is a color coded legend. We have UTG or under the gun with the color of, if I'm not color blind, this should be something like orange or red, something like that. And you can see the red region is basically from aces, ace kings up until ace tens suited, and from offsuit up until ace queen offsuit. And the the main diagonal of this, let's say, graph is basically up until pocket 5. So it includes also pocket 5, pocket 6, pocket 7, pocket 8, and it goes up until pocket aces. Well, I've also forgot to mention that the main diagonal of this matrix, starting from here, is pocket aces, and up until down this main diagonal you have pocket deuce. Whatever you see above this diagonal are the cards which are suited, like the first one to the left is ace king suited, ace queen suited, ace jack suited, and so on. And whatever you see below this main diagonal is just offsuit cards. So this O and S you see in this table, in this graph, is basically showing you whether the cards are suited or offsuit. And you can see low jack, high jack, and are having a lighter orange color, and cutoff having the color of yellow, and the button and small blind are basically having the color of green. So actually we have touched this topic in the previous session as well, when we talked about loose play and tight play in general sense. Let me find it here. Yes, exactly. So we said when you have position, then you can basically have some loose play. We mentioned it before. And when you are under the gun, then you need to be a little bit tighter in terms of your play. And this, we mentioned it qualitatively, but here we have also a nice graph about this. So now just see under the gun is this dark orange, and you can see the dark orange is basically the areas which are really, really tight, like aces, ace king suited, ace queen suited, or pocket king, pocket queen, pocket jack, pocket 10, up until pocket 5. So under the gun basically is a dangerous player. So they're playing with high cards. Normally, this is normally, as we said, you need to always make the flow as turbulent as possible. So, you know, these rules or these semi-rules, you cannot say these are rules. I mean, basically you can deviate from these rules at any time that you like. But basically, if people are playing professional poker, or if people are basically aware of these terminologies and facts and rules of poker, so basically you know that they are going to follow these ideas normally, but they can deviate from these facts as much as they want. And I do actually suggest and encourage, when you are playing poker, always try to deviate from the rules from time to time, because as we discussed this, you have to make it difficult for your opponents to predict you. Because if you always play very tight, then they always know that you have a certain personality or a certain game characteristic which basically is completely predictable for them. Always try to be unpredictable. Sometimes bluff with shitty cards and so on, only because to send this signal, to give another picture of yourself or your personality of play, which basically is completely chaotic. You don't want to be predictable when you're sitting at a table. And we said that playing with people who you don't know or you haven't played with, it's a little bit hard. So in the beginning, do not rush with your bets and so on. In the beginning, just try to basically go one by one over each person and try to track their behavior from beginning of a hand up until the end of the hand, and try to basically have an image of that person in your mind. As close as you can basically have the details of his play or of her play, to try to basically classify them, whether they are a tight play or which ranges of hands. Nowadays they talk about ranges of hands that the people are playing. You know, maybe in 10 years ago, 20 years ago, people, they didn't even consider ranges of hands. They basically knew if that somebody raises, then they are having basically either aces or ace kings or pocket queens. That's all. These are all the cards that they might have when they are raising. you know. But nowadays we have the game has evolved in such a way that people are doing some crazy stuff, and the rules of the game and the things are getting more and more complicated to basically predict the people of and nowadays to predict the people basically with which ranges of cards that they are playing. Okay, so you see that Under the Gun is basically playing very tightly, and these are the dark orange regions. Then we had low jack, hijack, which they have also a nice position. Low jack, hijack are here. They already see basically the decision of these two people, and they can decide, so they have a little bit of freedom. And you can see they in this table we have ace deuce suited with the orange, light orange, ace 3 suited, and but in the offsuit region we have only king and queen offsuit and ace and jack offsuit, or 9 and 10 9 suited, or 9 8 suited. These are suited connectors. This is another terminology, suited connectors. Suited connectors. These are the cards, for example, 9 and 10 both in hearts, right? Or I don't know, 7 and 8 in spades. So these are suited connectors, and they are usually good for making. Oh, by the way, these are suited connectors. They're good for both flush and straight. But we have also offsuit connectors like 7 of hearts and 8 of spades, something like this, but you get the idea. This is another terminology. So low jack, hijack, they have also a little bit of flexibility and freedom. Then we have cutoff. So cutoff is basically here before the button, and they're having a huge flexibility. Up until pocket deuce they can play, pocket 3, 4-3 suited, 5-3 suited, 5-4 suited. Also notice that these cards which are having two differences between them, so 7-5 suited, they're not connected, but they can be also useful in a scenario when you are having a gotcha, so you're having in between cards to make a straight. And finally the button, which is the green area, they can have really a wide range of cards. So the idea of this chart or of this table is that when you are sitting around this table and you start to play, you always, so some people do not even know about the element of position, but position is also very important. You need to know which person is sitting at which position and which decision they are making. So if the person is under the gun and they start to raise, you need to know that they usually, like 70%, I would say, at best 70%, 80%, they're having a tight hand. They're having pocket aces, pocket kings, ace queens, something like that. And when you see a person sits in button or small blind, and when they try to defend, when they try to call, they can have any shitty hands, because their hands are having basically a huge range. You can see it also. This is the pre-flop ranges you can open with, right? You can also use it as a guide. That when you want to play, you can see basically in which regions you are with the position that you have, and then try to use let's say the general guideline given here. So this is this chart I wanted to basically show so that you know the idea of ranges. Okay, so we talked about ranges as well. For the pre-flop, that the people tend to open basically with different sets of hands. Okay, so I make a new page here, and the final thing for today, I think we've talked again a lot. Maybe we go through an example of a hand breakdown. So I will write it here as hand breakdown. And yeah, maybe we don't use the rest of the top page and we start with a new page. So this hand is probably a little bit complicated to break it down, but I just want to, and I'm also not sure whether I'm following everything correctly. But I want to give you an idea or an impression of how things will basically progress and what routes you need to basically follow from start of a hand up until the end of the hand, and your decision making process. Which strategies you need to basically follow, or which kind of thoughts, or which elements are important when you are sitting and playing at a in presence. This doesn't apply into an online play. I will tell you why. The reason I will tell you afterwards. But let's talk about this hand. So this hand was shown in by Liv Boeree, who she is also a professional poker player in Oxford University. It was basically briefly shown, but they didn't break down this hand. They just showed because they wanted to tell the idea of a crazy hand and some things attached to it. But this game is not played by Liv Boeree, but by Igor Kurganov, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so Igor has in this hand King of Hearts and Jack of Spades. And his opponent, so this is a heads up, so his opponent, I don't know his name, but he has Queen of Spades and Seven of Hearts. So both of them are having one hearts. So Igor has kings, a King of Hearts, and his opponent has Seven of Hearts and Queen of Spade. So action goes to Igor, and the blinds are, so small blind, I think if I'm not mistaken it was 1,000, and big blind was 2,000, and Igor with King of Hearts and Jack of Spades, he raises to 4,000. So I will write the actions, maybe the actions just right here. So these are actions of Igor to the left, and to the right the actions of the opponent. And the hands are also given here. So he raises to 4,000. This is pre-flop. And this guy calls, just a flat call. And then here comes the flop, as we discussed. This is the flop. The flop comes 6 of hearts, Ace of clubs, and Jack of hearts. So Igor pairs his Jack, right? But there is also an ace there. So what he does, he basically checks. His opponent puts 8,000. He bets 8,000. Or let me make it more exact. 8,600 he bets. And already, if we don't consider the small blind and big blind, so here the pot was, so I will write also the pot summation here. So here, if we don't consider, as I said, the small blind and big blind, this was 8,000. And he bets 8,600, and then he check calls. Igor calls, so the amount of pot will be 2 times 8,600 will be 17,200 plus 8,000 already in the pot will be 25,200. And then the next card comes, which is the turn. Turn comes what? 7 of spade. 7 of a spade. Igor checks. He's the first to act. And this person bets 16,000 100. Yes. So in a pot of 25,200, he bets 16,100, and Igor also calls. So this is another check call. So now at this moment it will be 32,200, the summation of the two, and then 25,200 on top of it. On top of it will be 57,400. I might be completely dumb, but I believe that it should be this much, right? 25 and 32,000 will be 57, yeah, 57,400. And here comes the river card, which is 9 of hearts, and here we have a check from Igor, and his opponent says all in. He puts all his chips at the table, which is how much? 82,500. So with this 82,500, the pot is 139,900. So this is now the final pot size. So now we're gonna go towards the breakdown of this hand. What should Igor do here? We're gonna give you a mathematical approach that you can basically think about this to break it down, and then finally we will discuss whether the decision that he made was okay or was not okay, or based on what he made his decision. Anyways, I give you the final answer. He calls anyway, but we want to discuss whether this call was okay or not. So you can see that this background that we see here, his opponent only pairs a 7, and Igor pairs a jack. But there's an ace also there. And the guy shoves all in on river card, and Igor calls. But what possibilities are at this hand? We have a straight possibility. If you look a little bit carefully, we have jack, 7 and 9, and it means 8 and 10 will make a straight, right? We have also flush possibilities. Flush possibility comes from the hearts. So we have 6 of hearts here, jack of hearts here, 9 of hearts here. So the 6 of hearts, I will write it here, jack of hearts, and 9 of hearts. And any two cards or any two hearts will make a flush. And of course, there can be also a set possibility, or there can be also possibilities of 2 pair. So these are the hands that Igor loses 100%. He doesn't know what his opponent basically has, but the board has possibility of a straight, the board has possibility of flush, the board has possibility of set, of 2 pair, and everything is possible here. So now, if this happens to you, you need to know how, with which mechanism you need to make your decision. This is very important. The process and the mechanism is very important. So what we are going to do now is to basically gather the hands that we lose to. The combinations that we discussed already, like a straight, sets, flush, 2 pair, and everything like that. So for sets, a pocket 6 will basically make a set, because we have already 1 6 here on the board. Pocket aces will make a set, pocket jacks will make a set, pocket sevens and pocket nines. And you know that we don't have any six at our hands. We don't have any, so there is one seven, but we don't know that. So we don't consider the seven which is at our opponent's hands, but we don't have any seven at our hand. We have only king of hearts and jack of spades, right? So there are three sixes left because one six is here over the board. So this means we need a combination of two of them to have a pocket. So this will be 3 factorial with 2 factorial and 1 factorial. This will be 2, and these two and this will be 3, right? So there are 3 combinations of pocket sixes which are making a set, or 3 of a kind, or trilling. And there are also 3 aces, again the same combination, and 3 outs or 3 combinations are here. Jacks, we have 1 jack here on the board and we have 1 jack at our hand, so this means there are only 2 jacks available and the combination will be only 1. Pocket 7 will be again 2 out of 3, so this will be 3, and pocket 9s will be also 2 out of 3, which is a 3. So these combinations, the summations will be 4 times 3 plus 1, which will be 13. So these 13 combinations are making basically a trilling or a 3 of a kind, which 100% we lose to these hands, right? Now we go to the next hand. The next hand is, we can go to 2 pair actually. So our opponent might have 6 and ace. They might have, okay, I need a little bit more space. I think maybe it's better to start from here. 6 and ace, 6 and jack, 6 and 7, and 6 and 9. And then they can have ace with jack, ace and 7, ace and 9. Then they can have jack and 7, jack and 9, and yeah, these 2 combinations are unique. And then we have 7 and 9, right? So these are the 2 pair possibilities. So how many 6s we have? We have 3 of them. So this will be 3 multiplied by how many aces are left? So how many aces are left? We don't have any ace at our hand, so 1 ace is here, so 3 aces are also left. So this 3 times 3 will be 9, right? So this will be 9 combinations here. And 6s are 3, jacks are only 2 left, this will be 6. 6s are 3, 7s are 3, this will be 9. 6s are 3, 9s are 3, this will be also 9. So maybe in the end we make the summation, all the summations. But aces we have 3, jacks we have 2, this will be 6. Aces we have 3, 7s we have 3, this will be 9. Aces we have 3, 9s we have 3, this will be also 9. This is 2 times 3 because jack is only 2 left, and this is also 2 times 3, this is 6, this is 6. 7 and 9 are also 3 times 3 or 9. And if we sum them up, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 times 9 plus 1, or we can change the color so that you see it better. Whoops. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and make here 4 times 6. So let me change back again to black. So this will be 24 and this will be 54, and the summation will be 78. So this is another 78 things that we are losing, 78 combinations that we are basically losing. Okay, so far we've covered Let's go here. So far we've covered set here and two pair. So there are also possibilities of flush and straight. We have one heart at our hand, and basically 3 are given here. So this means we need to take 4 of them out. So this is flush. So 13 minus 4, it will be 9. And how many combinations are available? 3 out of 9. So this will be 9 factorial, 3 factorial, 6 factorial. So it will be 8, 7, 6. These are gone. And this is 6 again. And actually, I made a mistake. So not 3 out of them. It should be 2 because we need 2 cards. So 2 out of 9, the combinations that our opponent can have at his hand. So this would be 9 factorial, 2 factorial, 7 factorial. And this will be 9, 8, 7, 2, 7. And these will be 72 divided by 2, which will be 36. So this is another 36 possibilities for a flush. And now we go to the possibilities of straight. And you know that 8 and 10 will make a straight. So how many 8s do we have? 4 8s do we have? So these are 4 8s. And we have also 4 10s because we don't have any 10 or 8. We have king and jack, right? So there will be 16 combinations also here. But also notice that out of these 16, there will be 8 of hearts and 10 of hearts as well, which we already counted this when we considered the possibilities for the flush. So maybe it's better to take a -1 here, and this will be 15. Because we already counted 8 of hearts and 10 of hearts when we counted the combinations for the flush. So just to make it a little bit more precise. So we had 13 here in the beginning. So we had 13 here and 78 combinations from 2 pair. And we had flush combinations of 36 and another straight combinations of 15. So this 2 will be 28, this 2 will be 64, and this is 2, and this is 142. Did we make that correct? So 13 and 15 will be 28. Yes. 36, 28 will be 64. This is also correct. 78 and this one should be 230. Yes. I hope that this is correct. So these are the total combinations which we lose to. Now we want to basically gather the winning combinations for ourselves. So these are winning combinations for us. I know this is a very tedious example that I've picked, but I just want to give you the idea of the things. So basically, when you want to make a tough decision to probably call a all-in situation, you need to know about the combinations that you are losing to, and you need to know about the combinations that you are winning against. So you are winning against when he has a pair of 6. So you are winning against when yeah, since we have jack, right? So you are winning when he pairs jack, but at the okay, wait a second. So 6 we are winning, 7 we are winning, 9 we are winning. Ace we are losing if he has a pair of ace, because we have only jack, and we didn't consider this in these combos. As I said, I might be completely clumsy here and do not consider some possibilities there. There are more possibilities that we are losing, and that is a pair of aces also. So pair of ace. So how many aces are left? 3 of left in the deck, and the two pair possibilities we have already considered. So this means all of these 5 cards must be removed from a deck of 13 minus 5. This will be 8, and these are the combinations that he might have. So 24 he might have also here, so this means probably we need to add another 24 to here. This will be 166. But pairs of 6, 7, and 9, and also a jack, but with lower kicker. So jack and lower kicker we are winning against, right? So how many 6s are left in a deck? 3 of them are left, and possibilities of 2 pairs we have to take them out. So this means 13 minus 5 cards which are on over the board. So this will be 8. This will be 24 combinations for us. The 7s are also the same. This will be 24. And 9s are also the same, 24. But how many jacks are available? Only 2 of them are available. And we need to take all of the board cards. So this means 13 minus 5. And other than these, yes. So this will be a 16 for us. Right, and the summation will be 3 times 24 plus 16. This will be 60 and 12, 72, and this will be 80, 88. Right? So these are our winning combinations. And there are also, so we considered only one pair situation when our pair is better than his pair. So these are 6, 7, 9, and jack with a lower kicker. Basically, we are winning against these hands. And there are also lots of hands which are we are catching a bluff also. So he might have also a high card, like, I don't know, he might have, I don't know, something like king and queen. So for example, king and queen also is another hand which is only a high card and we are winning against. So we are catching pure bluff, and also we are catching 88 combinations. So now, what is important here, so in this tedious example that we had here, I promise that I will not go over 1 hour. I think we have crossed the line already. But anyways, so how many combinations we are losing to? We are losing to, where's that number? 166. So 166 combinations we are losing to. And how many combinations we are winning against? 88. Okay, so we say we lose here, but we win here. So in terms of percentage, how much will that be? It will be 88 over 88 plus 166. Let me calculate this quickly. 88 plus 166 will be 254. So this is 254. 88 over 254 will be 35%. Almost 35%. Okay, so this one is 35%, and in terms of pot odds, you can also calculate that. So the amount that we get is 139,900, and the amount that we need to call is 82,500. So this is our risk, and this is our reward. So if you we can basically also take this ratio. Let me calculate it. Okay, maybe it's easier that if we, yeah, we can also show it like this. If I have 166 divided by 88, this will be 1.8. So I can write this also as 1.8 to 1, or 35%. And this one we can write 139,900 divided by 82,500. This will be almost 1.7, almost 1.7 over 1, or 1 over 2.7, right? So 1 over 2.7, which will be 37%, almost. Okay, this is now the finale, the important finale that we want to talk about. We had this tedious exam and we went through all these winning and losing combinations, and now we need to draw a conclusion here. So what these numbers mean. So first of all, in terms of risk and reward, we are risking 1. So we risk 1, and our reward will be 1.7. So this is not a good deal, right? And take a look at here as well, that suppose that we want to risk it anyway. We say it's not a good deal, but we say, anyway, I want to make that risk. Anyway, I want to make that risk. How many times I'm winning? So the probabilities that we have calculated ended up with the value of 35%. So this means you risk 1 in order to get a reward of 1.7, and if you do this risk 35% of the times, you will win, and 65% of the times you will lose. So this decision is just one word for it: insane. So mathematically, if you gather these different possibilities, you have to do a big fold, a sofort fold, or immediate. Sofort is just a immediate fold. Immediate fold. But Igor called here, and when they asked him, why did you call? But this is very, very important. There is a very, very important point here. When they asked him, why did you call him? What he said is very, very interesting. He said, let me write it here because it is very, very important. Okay. He said, when he said all in, his voice was shaking. Plus, his hands were shaking. What is this? This is body language. These are all signals, signs These are as I said, every piece of information is important. When you're sitting at a round table, you need to take as much as information as you can process. So the only reason that he called was basically, this is not the only reason, but if you take a look at the process, it also doesn't make sense. You see, he is making a bet of he's making a raise of 4,000. You flat call, and then he checks. He's the aggressor. He's actually the person who acted first to raise it. He checks when he sees the flop, and then suddenly you are putting pot size bet. Why so aggressive? Why putting pot size bet in this pot? You can see 8,000 was the pot, and he puts 8,600. So their story doesn't match. So when you are having like 6 of hearts, ace of clubs, and jack of hearts, why do you play it so crazily? And then he checks again, and he puts another 1,600,000. Sorry, not 1,600, but 16,100, which means the total pot was 25,000. It's like 80% of the pot. And then suddenly in the river you're shoving all in. Something doesn't make sense here. Plus, he sees that his voice is shaking, his hands are shaking as well, and he calls. There was also a conversation between the two. He said something and the guy was smiling. He said, always when people are having lovely smiles, they are lying to you. So, I mean, not in real life. This is only when you're sitting at the poker table, right? So I'm not against these lovely smiles. It's okay to have lovely smiles to other people. But Igor said something, and the guy replies back with no words, but only a lovely smile. And Igor says, this is a sign of a lie when you're sitting at the poker table. So you see, this was just a breakdown and some new terminologies we have discussed here. Over pot size, as a recap, I will just go over pot size. We said up until 5 times it will go and have a plateau of 45%, and at maximum, in very extreme cases, you will have 50% of pot size, or pot odds. And then we had this low jack, high jack, and cutoff. These were the new terminologies, and we showed also this chart to basically ease you with the pre-flop decisions that you want to make. And we said these people who are sitting under the gun or under the gun +1 basically needs to have a tight range, and low jack, high jack, cutoff, and button, they can have more flexibility. As we go in this direction, the flexibility also increases. And then we had a hand breakdown of an old game, and this was between Igor Korganov and his opponent, which I don't remember his name. He wasn't a famous poker player, I guess. So, yeah. But as we went through the combinations that we are losing to, we mathematically somehow, I'm even not sure that this is completely true. It's not watertight, but anyways, that we tried to calculate some combinations which we are losing to, and we ended up with the value of 166. And the combinations that we were winning against was basically catching a bluff, a pure bluff, and also 88 combinations for only having one pair, which is lower than our pair, or maybe with the lower kicker. So yeah, mathematically we showed that this call is very insane because we are risking 1 to get 1.7 as a reward, and in this very stupid game, 35% of the times we are going to win, and 65% we are going to lose. So mathematically it's very insane to call, but Igor anyway calls, and the reason is because he absorbs every pieces of information when sitting at the poker table. He says his voice was shaking, his hands were shaking, and he gave me also a lovely smile when I said something to him. And based on these, let's say, combinations, as I said, there are different factors playing a role when you are sitting there and playing, and probably it is not maybe so dubious when you say the cards that you are having at your hands basically have the least value. So whatever comes at the flop, whatever in terms of psychology and the signals that you are giving, the decision that you are making, those are the important parts of this game. And probably the least important factor will be the two cards that you are having at your hand. And also, this is also another fact. It is very, very important. As a final, let's say, statement, I will say this and then we wrap it up. It is very, very important. You need to play aggressive. Not this crazy aggressive as we saw in this hand, but you always need to play a little bit aggressive. And the reason for that is basically, this is a fact that most of the poker hands do not come to showdown stage. This is also a new terminology. We haven't talked about this. Showdown. Showdown is basically when all 5 cards are already revealed, and basically you either you bet and the other guy calls, or everybody checks and then you need to show your cards. So this is the stage when you show your cards. And bear in mind that most of poker hands do not come to the stage of showdown. So when you are playing aggressive, you are increasing your chances of winning, because some portion you will win because you have the best hand. And now when you play aggressive, there will be another portion which you win when others are folding. So you are adding another possibility here to take advantage of people who are folding, and you are gathering whatever is in the pot. So playing aggressive is also a good thing, but as I said, it's not as simple as it seems. There are billions of different factors, but yeah, in this video I just wanted to talk about these aspects. Okay, we've talked too much. I hope this was helpful, at least to the beginners, and see you maybe in the next video.